as I got further in my senior year, I had a chance to break the scoring record at the University of Oregon. It came down to the last game, and I needed 25 points. And lo and behold, the last game of the season is going to be against Oregon State, our arch rival, and on the road against a very hostile crowd who, didn't like any of us anyway, but especially me. I got the reputation of being a hot dog for the Oregon State fans. And so when they said my name, all these boos came, of course. All of a sudden, these hot dogs were coming out of the stands by the dozens. Some of them are bouncing in front of me and rolling across the floor. Some of them are hitting me. Now we come down to the last few minutes, and I've got a chance to break the record. I remember getting the ball, driving to the basket, and somebody stepped to take a charge. And I remember the official was one of the great ones, was Luis Soriano. But Luis Soriano called a blocking foul on the defender. And so I had 2 free throws. So I became the all-time leading scorer in my last game collegiately at the University of Oregon. I did that after I was pelted with hot dogs, and I got my revenge. I started to play football, but I broke my foot, which was kind of the best thing that ever happened to me because I didn't play any football anymore, and I concentrated on basketball and baseball. That spring, the head basketball coach, his name was Tom Williams, and he came over and asked me a question. He said, hey, Jim, are you going to be first-string varsity next year? And I thought he was talking to somebody else. And I said, well, I didn't even think you were going to ask me out for the team. And I'll never forget what he said. He said, I'll tell you something. If you want to make it, it's 75% desire and 25% ability. I'm expecting you to be first-string varsity next year. You know, I always liked basketball, but from that on, that's all I did was basketball. I became very dedicated, very disciplined, and it all generated from that statement of 75% desire. We were playing Buffalo. I hadn't had a technical all year long. I'm guarding Randy Smith, who's very fast, but I wasn't within 4 or 5 feet of him, and I just kind of jumped up in the air. I remember the official, his name was Ed Badagowski, and he blew his whistle, and I could not believe it. I mean, I wasn't even near Randy Smith, and Ed Badagowski had called a technical foul. Now, I said, okay, I'm going to get my money's worth. They started to line up at the free throw line, and when I got to Ed Badagowski with that ball, I reached with 2 hands, and I yanked it right out of his arm and away from his waist, and I took like a step and a half like a punter would in the NFL. And I kicked one like I was a good punter, like I was Ray Guy. I got my whole foot into it, and I kicked that ball into the upper level at the Oakland Coliseum. I saw a kid catch it, and he ran out the exit with the ball. I don't think it's ever happened before, maybe not since. So now I'm working later on, and I'm in Jack London Square, and this is, 20 years later. And I run into a guy walking along the street, and he said, hey, Jim Barnett. He said, I was at the game the night that you kicked the ball into the stands, and I'm the one that caught the ball and ran out of the arena. And I still have the ball. He said, I have it up on a shelf in my bedroom.